Welcome to The Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to have you here today because we are going to dismantle a massive and honestly very costly media myth about the current housing market. If you've been out there feeling this bizarre disconnect between what the news is saying and what you're actually experiencing on the ground with your buyers and sellers, trust me, you are not crazy. The market is literally lying to your buyers right now. Now, it's not necessarily on purpose, but the narrative being pushed is absolutely going to cost your clients real money if you don't step in. It's your job to correct the record, and today, we're going to arm you with the exact insider data you need to do just that.
Okay, let's just dive right into this. You've probably heard some version of this widespread quote, "Inventory is rising. There are more homes than ever. Buyers have leverage. Wait it out." I mean, this is the exact headline your buyer read on Zillow this morning right before they texted you saying, "Hey, should we wait a few more months? Kind of seems like prices are dropping," right? They think they're being incredibly clever by sitting on the sidelines waiting for this massive correction, but as we're about to see, they are about to get completely blindsided.
So, here's our roadmap for today. 1. Uncovering the real data. 2. The local market reality. 3. Speedboats versus anchors. And 4. Winning in today's market.
Let's start with Section 1, uncovering the real data, focusing on the rate of change. You see, the media takes a single number, this idea that inventory is technically up, and they just run wild with it. But they are completely ignoring the most crucial part of the math.
Think of the market like driving on a highway. If you're blasting down the road at 100 miles per hour and you suddenly slam on the brakes and slow down to 15 miles per hour, well, technically, yes, you're still moving forward. You aren't going in reverse, but you sure as heck aren't accelerating anymore. And that is exactly what is happening in the housing market right now. Yes, sure, there are more homes available than during the pandemic lows, but the momentum has totally stalled out.
Just look at the sheer collapse in these numbers. 1 year ago, inventory was growing at 30.6% year over year, over 30%. Today, that growth rate has absolutely plummeted to just 4.6%. Guys, that's not a minor trend or a slight dip. That is a total collapse. In just 12 months, the pace of new inventory coming onto the market dropped by 85%. The growth is practically over.
So, the crucial piece of the puzzle here is understanding what's happening with demand while this inventory growth is stalling out. Here is the actual Freddie Mac number from this week, a 6.30% rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage. Now keep in mind, a year ago, that rate was 6.76%, so rates are actually down year over year.
And what exactly happens when rates tick down even just a little bit? Demand surges. Purchase applications, which remember, means actual qualified buyers actively seeking loans to buy a home, went up 20% year over year. So let's put those two realities together for a second. Inventory growth has basically flatlined to nothing, while buyer demand is surging by 20%.
Which leads us directly to this massive reality check. 71%. Despite everything the headlines are screaming right now, prices are still up in 71% of national metro markets in the first quarter of 2026. So your buyer who is out there waiting for a deal, they're watching the completely wrong set of numbers.
Moving to Section 2, the local market reality. National headlines versus local ground truth. We've got to separate these two things because all real estate is local, and these national averages are heavily skewing your buyer's perceptions. Consider the current split we're seeing. Right now, there are 15 states that are at or above their pre-pandemic 2019 inventory levels. We're talking places like Florida, Texas, Arizona, and Colorado. In those markets, there actually is real inventory and real price negotiation happening. But contrast that with California. Incredibly tight markets like Contra Costa and Alameda counties are still far below their pre-pandemic inventory levels. When your buyer tells you, "Hey, I saw in the news the market is shifting," they are reading about Phoenix or Tampa. They are not reading about Walnut Creek, Oakland, or Livermore. In these tight local markets, the tiny window where buyers have any breathing room at all is closing super fast.
Section 3. Speedboats versus anchors. A market split in two. This is an awesome concept that comes directly from 26-year industry veteran Greg McDaniel. He's seen rate spikes, crashes, frenzies, slowdowns, the whole shebang. And his mental model perfectly explains the completely contradictory vibes we're all feeling in the market right now. The market hasn't just slowed down, it's split entirely into two distinct buckets.
The first bucket is what we call the speedboats.
These are the turnkey, meticulously staged homes that trigger instant buyer feeding frenzies. And the reality is, if your client is out there looking for the good stuff, the move-in ready home in the great school district, they are not in a buyer's market. In fact, for this specific type of product, we literally never left a seller's market.
Let's break down the exact anatomy of a speedboat. These properties are completely turnkey. They are staged flawlessly. The smartest sellers are actually pricing them about 2% under market value to intentionally trigger a massive feeding frenzy. And what happens? Boom. They're gone in under 10 days. Honestly, some don't even last 72 hours. They get multiple offers, they go well over the asking price, and they move incredibly fast.
Now contrast this entirely with our second bucket, the anchors. These are the overpriced homes that need work, and they just sit stagnant. And here's the secret. This bucket right here is entirely responsible for the media's narrative about widespread price cuts. When the news says 36% of homes have price cuts nationwide, your buyers immediately assume everything is on sale. But they're really just looking at the anchors.
Here's what an anchor looks like in the wild. It's that house that needs just a little work, right? It needs fresh paint, maybe the carpets are worn out, the kitchen is super dated, or the landscaping is looking a bit tired. And because they were overpriced from day one, they're sitting on the market for 60 to 90 days. The sellers are just scratching their heads, eventually taking 5% price cuts and wondering why nobody wants their avocado green kitchen. And the real irony here? Sitting on the market doesn't actually attract bargain hunters. It just scares off potential buyers who automatically assume something is fundamentally wrong with the house. All right, Section 4, winning in today's market with combat scripts and action items. The agents who win in every single cycle are the ones who stay absolutely locked in on the real data, not the headlines and not the vibes. I'm going to equip you with the exact combat scripts and action items you need to navigate this environment starting right now.
Here is your tough love script for that buyer who wants to wait. You look at them and say, I hear you. The headlines make it sound like inventory is flooding back, but look at the actual data with me for a second. A year ago, inventory was growing at 30%. Right now, it's just 4.6%. The growth is almost over, and purchase applications are up 20%. The window you think you have is closing. Now, if you want to wait, I completely support that, but I want you to make that decision with the real numbers, not a Zillow headline.
And here is your script for the rate objection. Rates are actually lower than they were a year ago, which means today's buyers are in a better position than last year's buyers, who, by the way, got into homes that are worth more today. So you tell them, listen, you're not marrying the rate, you're just dating it. You can always refinance later, but you are marrying the price, and prices in 71% of markets went up in the first quarter. So do you want to date the rate and marry the price while it's still negotiable, or do you want to wait until both the rates and the prices go up?
Okay, here are your 3 concrete action items for this week. Number 1, pull your active buyer list and find anyone who's been sitting on the fence for more than 60 days using the inventory excuse. Text them that 4.6% stat, don't over-explain it, just send the number and say, thoughts on this. Just start the conversation. Number 2, go through your listing leads and identify the anchors. Have the speedboat conversation with them before you list. Give them a punch list of repairs and staging, and look, if they won't do it, price it aggressively or just don't take the listing at all, because sitting 90 days on the market kills your brand. And number 3, get a referral, share this data with one agent in your office who is struggling with buyer objections. They desperately need this reality check.
Because at the end of the day, it ultimately boils down to the core choice every buyer faces right now. When your client tells you prices are dropping and they want to wait, look them right in the eye and ask them this one simple question. Which house are you trying to buy? A speedboat or an anchor? Because if they want the good stuff, the rules of the game are completely different than what they saw on the morning news. I really hope this explainer empowered you to go out there and be the person who tells the truth in your market. Keep learning, keep explaining, and I will see you in the next one.